and I'm actually going to go ahead and stop my own video so that hopefully the internet will hold up throughout all of this. So let me share my screen. And so you should be seeing, and I would like Angie to unmute quickly just to tell me to make sure that you're seeing my internet browser with the virtual coaching session 2.3 on here.
Yes, we can see that.
Awesome. Okay, so this was emailed out hopefully to you to prepare for today, and we'll post this on the wiki as well when we post the recorded virtual coaching session for today. So this is the same format as what we've done with the previous virtual coaching sessions. That the purpose of this, first off, is just to give you just a little bit more support if you need it for the kind of district team meeting that is supposed to happen next week as a part of module 2.3. So I can't believe, and I bet Angie is excited that we have our cohorts 1 and 2 districts are coming towards the end of module 2.3, which is building an intervention system for math. And so the purpose of this meeting today is just to give you a little bit more support on conducting your meeting and some more resources if you need those. So just like the others, you guys are probably old hats at this now, since you're cohort 1 and 2 of conducting and facilitating these district MTSS meetings. But we have this structured for you, so just some reminders for before the meeting, during the meeting, and after the meeting is how this is set up. So the first piece, before the meeting, we just have some initial kind of pieces, that everyone should be familiar with by now, of logistics, making sure that you have the confirmed time and all that. And then, as we have in other coaching sessions and probably with your regional consultant as well, we want to make sure that you have available and the district team has available the district and school module 2 milestone sheets. So that's linked right here in this document that was sent to you. And I'll open it up just to make sure that everybody's on the same page about how these are structured. So as we've gone through with module 1, same with module 2, each section has a set of milestones that are based off the content in the online content and the module content. And if we scroll down, look how much you've done. Isn't this exciting? And we keep going, and it starts about here when we get into module 2.3, which is developing the math component to the intervention system. So what you'll see is some milestones to be completed by the district team, and then some milestones to be completed by the school leadership team, or in a school leadership team with the assistance of the district coordinator and district team. And again, how these milestones are set up is we have the overall task over on the far left-hand side. And then as we move across, there are little guidepost milestones that get you towards achieving that task. So you would kind of look across to say, what are those important tasks associated with this larger objective? So that's the first resource that you have in here that we would recommend that you make sure all your team members have handy during your meeting. And then we've provided that team meeting agenda as well, which is linked here. And it's also linked in the content, in the online content. And these are developed so that, of course, you can modify this as you need to, but the 2.3 one is really, it's a nice setup to have the necessary background information that your team's going to need, and then your team activity, and then your activity as well for implementation planning. So please feel free to modify these if you need to, but they are set up there for you as at least a shell to help you with your district team meeting.
And Amy,
the other pieces that we do recommend.
I'm sorry, I was going to give some just some talking time while you were transitioning, but I would just like to point out that when you look at those agendas, we've placed every topic that you've gone over in that portion of the course on the agenda items. And the thinking is that you wouldn't obviously attempt to try to cover each one, but it is a nice reminder of this is the information you've covered. And depending on the needs of your system or the priorities or your planning purposes, you just want to focus in or make sure you're honing in on one or two of those things, but not all of them.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. Thank you, Angie. So as you continue to prepare for that district team meeting, so just a little, more helpful hints for before the meeting, making sure there's Moodle access and team members have their reflection journal. The learning checklists are also an important piece if they wanted to bring those to kind of keep track of where they've been throughout the online content. And those are all contained within the module as well. And then what we've done with this one is to make sure that you have, when we look at that, like Angie had said, that agenda piece. Of course, we don't expect you to cover all of this, but it does kind of give you that base of what have we covered so far. That will be kind of necessary pieces of information for planning. So to have a meaningful discussion around building an intervention system for math, your team members really need to understand the pieces of background knowledge that we have here. So it gives you that list. So what we've done on this virtual coaching sheet is kind of take some of those pieces for the background knowledge and just place them here so that you can refer to those if you need to and have it ready for the meeting. Now each of these links that you see here links to the live binder, but these are the same resources that are included in the course. We're just trying to archive things in the live binder so that you don't have to continue to go back to the course to try to find resources you may need. So what you'll see here when I clicked on the universal screening piece is you'll see several tabs in the live binder that deal with universal screening. So this one linked specifically to the universal screening system video. But when you look at this, you'll see several different tabs that link to there. And then the same, there's tabs for progress monitoring, tabs for diagnostic, data decision rules. And then there's the whole section that deals with building an intervention system for math. So of course, this isn't going to be as complete as what you saw in the online content, but it is a place where you can download those resources that you've already viewed in the content. Angie, do you have anything to add for that?
Well, we always like to give you a peek behind the curtain of our thinking. And so just so you understand where we're going with this, we know that we house these resources in several different locations. And while that's good, sometimes it can be a little confusing for you all. So our idea is that we want you and your team to, have your first encounter with these resources within the context of the course so that you get that guidance and information around the use of those resources. But ultimately, we want you to start going into the live binder after that point as much as possible, because it's just a much more straightforward, easier way to get to those resources. So you're going to see us pointing you towards the live binder whenever we are providing ongoing support or technical assistance, because we ultimately want that to be the spot that you're headed towards so that you don't have to try to keep engaging in that scrolling spiral of scrolling in the course. So that's why you see us. I was about to say something else, but that's why we keep linking everything to the live binder, because we really do want you to go there. That's a really well put together platform, I think. Thank you, Amy, for doing that.
Great. Okay. So that kind of just takes you through some things to have prepared, maybe things to have accessible for before the meeting, so that you can have a lively conversation during the meeting. So this is your team meeting to discuss 2.3 content, which is that building an intervention system for math. And we fully understand that you are not going to leave this meeting with an intervention system built for math. And we completely understand that there's always going to be that lag between your content learning and implementation. So we want to make sure that we're receptive to that. So when we talk about what's going to happen in this meeting, we'll refer back to the district team agenda. And the two really big pieces that we're going to talk about a little bit and that your district team may want to talk about is really understanding, first off, what are those 10 steps for building an intervention system in math? And what you'll see is, what you should have seen is that the 10 steps for building the intervention system in math look very much like, many pieces look very, very much like the 10 steps for building it for literacy, and will look a lot like your 10 steps for building the intervention system for behavior, attendance, and student engagement kinds of factors, which will be 2.4. And we did that because we wanted to provide this standard protocol of learning about building an intervention system. So you'll see some pieces that are, of course, new and different and based on the content of math. But then what we want you to do is be able to become familiar around what is the protocol involved in building an intervention system for anything. So those 10 steps will be really important. So if I click on this first resource around what to begin your discussion, when you click on that, you'll go to the live binder again. And it's going to come in just a second. The internet may be getting a little tired on a Friday afternoon, just like everybody else. So what you'll see here is this entire section around developing that math component to the system of interventions. So we start with the same kinds of ways that the module content starts, which the first few tabs under this section are around the research. In the area of math, what are effective practices for students who struggle in math? And if you have large numbers of students struggling in math, then these are effective practices to infuse into your core instruction as well. So that's that first piece. And that whole section on the live binder should be able to help you guide you through a lot of those pieces and those 10 steps that we talked about. So how do you develop your intervention matrix within step 2? And then how do you ensure that you're matching students appropriately to the intervention matrix you've built, and then data decision rules, planning, the teaming structures, and beefing up core if necessary, and then matching as well. So during the meeting, it would be good to begin discussing how you want to go forward with some of that content, and referring back again to that milestone sheet to really get the what do we do now? So when we look at that milestone content for module 2.3, we see that we want to make sure that our data evaluation plan is in place district-wide, and we want to make sure that we're supporting our selected schools, seeing what we can do as far as data evaluation across a district, and then how do we support our schools and ensuring they have the correct data. And then you'll see that we are also talk about how do we define the essential components of our math intervention system. So we start talking about, in terms of these milestones, what do we need to do at a district level and what do we need to do at a school level. So we're trying to really tie it all together, that you have the content knowledge through the module, which you can pull up on the live binder, and then you're able to go to the milestone documents to see kind of more of a step-by-step of building this. Angie, anything else?
No, not at this point, but I do want to remind you that if you have a question, I'm looking at the chat box, and if you want to make a comment or, even contribute something you've already done with any of these areas that Amy has just gone over, please just let me know and I will unmute you. So it's a pretty small group. It might be nice to have a little conversation if you want to have it, but I just wanted to put that out there. But right now we don't have any questions, Amy.
Awesome. So during the meeting is set up for the what we'll be talking about. So how do we build that standard protocol for math? And then what do we need to understand as well around students who need something more than supplemental instruction? So once we get to that individual problem solving level for students struggling in math, those resources are also there as well. And then the next piece within the during your meeting piece is the why. So some topic areas that you may want to kind of discuss during then are what's our current progress for students who struggle in mathematics? How well do our current math intervention practices align with the research-based guidelines that we have lined up for you? And this takes you pretty easily into kind of some resources there around what are those best math intervention practices that we see across instruction, curriculum, and environment. So if we go to this section here, make that a tad bit bigger, you'll see kind of a nice document that will help hopefully guide some of those conversations around how would we set up an effective math standard protocol. So that's just another piece there. And then program selection. So what are those best practices, which is very, should look very familiar from the module content, those best practices for selecting math intervention, and then some resources as well, and some programs that are already listed that have some good evidence across North Carolina are also at this site. Okay. And then the last piece with during the meeting to kind of begin debriefing on some of this content is how do we do this? So this links back to the two options that were presented in the module content around building that intervention system for math. And that is really around, are we selecting a program that's already developed? Or are we trying to build a very detailed math intervention program with a defined scope and sequence and defined tools based off of the previous grade level standards?
Yeah, and I thought, you know, from a distance, and it was dark in there, I thought, okay, this does have kind of similar features.
I think we had a little voice pop up there.
I just took care of that, Missy. Just a word.
Well, that's a perfect time to pause and ask Angie, did I miss anything about the beginning part of this district meeting, which is around, it kind of all ties together, but debriefing on content knowledge, which then brings us straight into that implementation planning pieces, which are referring back to the milestone sheets to kind of map out the work.
I would just, I would say that you might want to remind your participant or your team members that as you quickly debrief on the two options, that was an individual assignment. So that could be a good way to spur on the conversation by asking them, like, you know, did you, what was the positive, the minus, or the detail that you noted about one of the two options? So I think that would just be a good way to integrate the fact.
I make sure I was muted so they didn't hear anything I was saying.
Okay. I think that would be a good way to, I think that'd be a good way to integrate the fact that, hey, you had an individual assignment, and it would just sort of be organic to the conversation. So you can have that conversation, but you could also remind them that there was some accountability there too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. And then tying back in this next, you know, with each of these district team meetings, you're debriefing on content with your team, and then you're starting to plan implementation. So we talked just a bit about the Module 2 milestones, and this task is on the agenda for you as well, to refer to that milestone sheet and identify 3 implementation items your team determines to be priorities for building the intervention system in your selected schools. And then you're going to use those milestones to the right. So we talked a little bit about those milestone documents. And so again, you're looking at each of the items in gray on the left-hand side, and then looking across to see how that's mapped out in a stepwise type of fashion. But we all know this isn't really linear work. So you'll have to kind of, we've made it as linear as possible, but there's always more tasks that kind of come up as you start implementing as well. And then just some guiding questions. So what will we do first? Will we try this across the district or in selected schools? Is some conversation to have. Do we have the data to make these decisions? And then also, do we need some folks that form little subcommittees to start researching programs and practices or researching data tools and coming back to report, because this is big work. And then we wanted to refer you back, if you were with us for the follow-up, Module 1 follow-up in the spring of last school year, you remember that we had you place your implementation planning work for the conclusion of Module 1 on a Gantt chart. And we realized after talking to some folks that we hadn't really referred back to that implementation planning work you did. So we would encourage you to kind of bring that on back out if you haven't, that Gantt chart that you started or what you did with that. And some of our cohort 1 and 2 districts are just really great at the implementation planning piece. So I feel certain that you've done a lot with those pieces that you began last year. But just kind of a consideration, if we've forgotten about that tool, is here's some more information. It's Wikipedia. It's pretty great about Gantt charts and about their use, because this could be a nice way to start planning out as you've concluded learning about building an intervention system for literacy and now building an intervention system for math, beginning to map that work out and who's going to do it across your district team and across the coming months and years as well.
Hey, Amy. Also, I want to point out, I believe that Google Chrome now has a really cool app for making Gantt charts. So, and that's something I can make sure I provide a link for folks if they're interested, because while the big chart paper is good when we're all together, and I know you enjoyed making those, it's probably a little bit more convenient to have it in electronic format. So we'll make sure we get everybody the link to that if that's something they're interested in. That chart paper might be getting a little wrinkled by now.
Yeah, it might be seeing some wear and tear after a little while. Yeah, so do you want to link that right here in this, because they have access to this document? So that'd be awesome, Angie.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Awesome. And then, Angie, why don't you go ahead and give them that little reminder down here about Moodle fatigue?
Yes. So
diagnosed condition. Many don't know about it.
It is a sadly underreported condition, but it's real, and it's a concern. So we saw this phenomena, if you want to call it that, last year around the same time, but we understand that at this point, we've hit March and we've been engaged in the course in the online learning since October. So you're getting tired, and I'm sure your district team members are getting tired. It just gets a little, you need a break, and you do have one coming, but what we see happening is that the progress in the course declines pretty dramatically around springtime. So it could be the case for you guys that you or some of your team members have fallen a little behind in the course. And our first message there is to make sure everyone understands that that's okay, because school's getting crazy and you've been at it for a while. So don't beat yourselves up for that. But as the coordinators at this point and during this meeting, it might be a really good time to sort of be cheerleaders and let them know, listen, you have a really nice break coming up. Go ahead and just pick up where you left off and get done what you can get done in a logical manner or a realistic manner. But we don't want you to quit. We don't want you to give up, even if you've fallen behind. So we have here in the notes that this particular meeting might be a really good time for you to become sort of the course cheerleader, because based on our data, I think your team members and possibly even yourselves might need a little pep talk to, hang in there. We've got one more section after 2.3, and then, we've made it through module 2, which was very dense and heavy, and congratulations and all that good stuff. So we have it on there, and we're just going to encourage you guys to sort of give everybody a pep talk to try to get them to dig back in and make the progress, because we understand that in module 2, we're encountering some concepts and some ideas and content that might be new Or if we're looking at the implementation of these things, we might be a lot further away than maybe we were when we were talking about core. So we definitely want you to be able to benefit from what's in there and not get discouraged if you are not on the suggested time frame. So Holly was diagnosed last week. I love it. And that's another thing too. We understand that there's a lot of repetition across the literacy and the math portions of Module 2, as well as the establishing readiness. And that is by design, because a lot of what we're looking at, again, it just starts piling up. And so we want you to continue to encounter it within the different contexts of the academics and behavior. So if you are still sort of eyeballing literacy, you're okay, because you're going to, much of 2.3 with math is still dealing with those same tools and those same implementation steps. So that you're not, in a really tough situation there at all. How's that, Amy? Was that inspiring? Move forward, people. We got this.
I think that was really good. And I
Did
think
it just make you want to go log in?
Yeah. And it's okay.
It's okay. Yeah.
And then, so the last piece is the module 2.3 activity, which I think I already have that pulled up right here. And basically, so this is around the progress monitoring graphing tool that you'll find in the course. And surprise, surprise, it's also in the live binder. And having this opportunity to play with that. So you'll see that within the course. And looking to see, can we analyze that data? Do we understand how to analyze that data, not just at the individual level, but at the group level as well? So you'll have that opportunity for your module 2.3 team activity. And then also to connect with your MTSS consultant, one of the 8 of us who's in charge, who helps your region. So that can be in any kind of way, a text, a call, an email, asking them to come out, just kind of connecting to make sure that there's nothing that we need to assist you with, make sure that we're understanding where you are with the content, and that we know that this is huge and this is big work. So we just want to make sure you have that connection there too. There's something else I was just thinking about, Angie, and I forgot.
Well, so while you're thinking, again, I think these coaching sessions are good opportunities for us to give you a peek behind the curtain of our thinking, as I keep saying. But one thing that we wanted to do intentionally is try to take some of these tools that are in the course and make sure that you and your team are having the opportunity to really pull them up and fiddle with them, so that they're not lost in all the content in the course. And so this would be an example that I think of a tool that could be quite important, but easy to miss. So the progress monitoring tool is simple, but it really does a nice job of allowing us to see, is the overall intervention effective, as well as looking at individual student responses. So it's a nice tool, but often we'll hear folks saying that they're working on creating a tool, or they need a tool, and the tool itself has already been created and it's in the content. So we really just want to make sure you guys are having the opportunity to shed light on some of these resources, so that they're not buried in some of the other sort of just basic content of the course. Okay, you got it. Good.
Absolutely. And so this, I just pulled it up just so you see kind of if you missed it somewhere in there. This will allow you to, within our progress monitoring guidelines, we talk about graphing in such a way that you can see individual student progress. You can see how their trend is, where their scores are trending towards. So that's done for you in this graph. You can set good goals for students. So you can't mess it up. You can just download it and start kind of playing around with it. We tried to give you step-by-step instructions. And then the last thing is that there's room in this one file to put several students so that then you can look to see students across the same intervention group. How are they responding, to look at that intervention effectiveness? So if you have any questions about it or anything, please just let us know. And surprise, that's also in the live binder too. So this one's not the updated one. Okay. I think that is it. Do we want to talk about any questions about anything at this point? I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Hey, Amy, I'm just looking to see if we have any questions. And so we'll give you a minute or two. And if you just want to ask your question by typing in the chat box, I don't even have to unmute you. And I'm just wondering, we have 9 of you here with us. If you have used the Gantt chart past the day that we were together for the follow-up, could you just type in, yes, we've used it? We're just sort of curious to see if that was a resource that was helpful to you. And if you don't type, I'm just going to say, oh, yay, Rhonda said yes, they have. Thanks, Rhonda. Okay, Holly's done it. Oh, they use it as a live document. That's good. Okay, great. Rankind, is that Judy Rankins, maybe?
Doris Rankins, is it? Doris Rankin?
Doris, that's right. I was calling her Judy.
Is that right?
Yes, that's right. Okay, and Holly put theirs in a Google Excel sheet. Great. Oh, that's good news.
Awesome.
Super. So any other comments, concerns, any questions for your fellow coordinators in terms of the way they're running the meeting, or any sticky wickets you encounter when you are conducting the meeting that you'd want to put out in front of the group, or anything like that? I think we've discovered from Tuesday that you guys get a lot of benefits from sharing with each other. That was a great day, and we appreciate those of you who were able to attend. We appreciate you coming to Greensboro this week.
And those that couldn't, we really would encourage you to visit the wiki space to see those presentations. They're under state and national events. There's a link for CCSA on there with the session materials, and I've shown those to a couple people since we got back on Tuesday, because your colleagues just really did an amazing job with that.
All right, so Holly's saying that they're comfortable.
Holly, I see your.
Yeah, go ahead, Amy. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just thought we were comfortable with content, but trying to figure out how to create these interventions on a very slim budget. And so we would encourage you, Holly, I think Angie and I would probably take it the same stance to really just begin small, starting with a certain subject area, content area, and a limited grade span, early literacy, and just start building and not trying to do everything, which you probably know, not trying to boil the ocean, right, Angie? Angie, you're muted.
I was just saying we can't do that. Okay, good. They're going to start with early literacy. It seems like that's a typical starting point, and we refer to that as a quick win, which is almost hilarious that we would call that a quick win. We know it's not going to be quick, but it's quicker perhaps than starting in other areas for sure. So that makes sense.
Yeah, you at least have the data for sure in that area probably to support your decision making. And then I will say, like, we've had this conversation about it is hard, and it's hard. What the research says is building a standard protocol intervention in the beginning is very is a difficult thing for the system, but there's a lot of rewards as you move forward. But we always, one of our colleagues said this, and I think it's true, we realize as a district team or a school leadership team how difficult it is, and then if you kind of step back and think, well, that's what we've been asking individual teachers to do for so many years, is create their own things to use when students struggle, and be in charge of that. So it kind of gives us a lens to look through, thinking it's easier to create it maybe once or twice rather than for every individual student, although the beginning work is really difficult. Okay. Other questions, comments?
Hey, Amy, can you hear me?
Yes. Is that Mike?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
All right, I'm in the car driving to Chapel Hill for the consortium. Do you have,
Cool.
are there models out there where there are two coordinators in terms of looking at how they structure the work and how to be most efficient given that ability?
Yes. Yeah, there are. We have a few places across the state that kind of split it up that way. Some do it between academics and behavior. Some do it where there's a couple of people at central and kind of split evenly, and then just splitting it by schools that they support. So yeah, we have a few of those. I can put you in touch with them if you need it.
Yeah, I was just curious to see how other people tackle that and how to, capitalize on it.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely. It. Sure. Good question. Okay. Angie, you think we're good?
I think we're good. I don't see any additional comments on the chat box, and I think we're good.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so we'll go ahead and put this recording up on the wiki and the tools as well. So happy weekend to everyone, and thank you for everything you do. You guys are the smartest group of people in the state of North Carolina.
Thank you.
I feel certain.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.